Tranquility Base here. The Eagle has landed.
Check. 1, 2, 1, 2. Check 9, 27, 84. All right, here we go. This is it. Right here, right now. Oh my gosh, it's the Cannabis Coffee Hour with your host, me, Rob Cantrell, coming to you live and direct from Brooklyn, New York. It's another episode of the Cannabis Coffee Hour. I'm solo. It's just me and you. I want to say thank you for tuning in, listening. I see the numbers are coming up, and I am digging it, and we're pushing forward. I got funky, fresh new logos. Doug Benson's episode's on fire. I don't know what happened. Somebody must have retweeted it or something and went crazy. So check out the Doug Benson episode, and my solo ones are doing great too. So I know you guys are digging the solo joints, and that's what is today. I got another cup of my homemade cannabis tea that I made. I had a big mason jar. As you know, I put a big, if you listen to the last episode, I made cannabis tea with this hemp that I got from these Amish farmers in Pennsylvania. They sent it to me. Now, it's mostly CBD and all that. Like, it's not THC. I'm not tripping. As you know, I'm tripping all the time. Even before weed, I was out there, man. Weed just helped me kind of focus it in a little bit and relax and take naps better. But also enjoy. I don't know, man. You know what I mean. Weed is good, but I haven't been smoking the last, I would say, week. I've been running on CBD and this tea, and I'm at the last bit of it. But there was like a whole thing of honeycomb and like real waxy honeycomb, and it just tastes so delicious. Let me take a sip of this. Oh. Wow. I nailed it because I put fresh ginger in that thing. Like if I bottled this shit up, this Cantrell cannabis moonshine that I made, it would sell, man. This shit's better than any of those. No, I can't say that. Hopefully I'll get some sponsors on here soon. If you want to sponsor the Cannabis Coffee Hour, hit me at the DM. It's at Cannabis Coffee Hour IG. Get on my IG. Check out the IG. We got to get the numbers. I know all these algorithms and numbers and people are paying for shit, but I wasn't born in the internet, man. And I didn't even get into comedy. I got into comedy before motherfuckers even had websites and stuff. So for me, I'm a goofball at heart. I'm picking up on the internet game, but I can do it, and I know how to do it, and I dig it. I dig TikToks. I dig emojis. I dig all that shit. But I also got a lot of shit going on, and I'm trying to knock out these projects. But I'm enjoying a nice cup of cannabis tea that I made, homemade tea. I made this podcast homemade. I'm homemade. I'm just the earth. I'm just the sun. I'm just the trees. It's just begun. Let it grow. Let it grow. Let it grow. It's not over, people. It's never over. We're always growing and evolving and learning. I learn every day, man. My finger got fucked up the other week. My toes all fucked up. I almost got in a road rage thing, and I had to just reflect on it. And I'm learning. I'm learning to just reflect on the day and like things I've gone through, and then try to make sense of them, or try to where I found dissatisfaction, or just bad. When you go kind of negative on shit, and you're not in your natural space. And I wanted to make this natural. I didn't want to make this forced. I think I came on a little forced. It's, to get psyched up to do a podcast, it does take amount of energy. Everything takes an amount of energy. That's why worrying and negative thoughts and and neurosis and why me, all that shit. It's draining. It's draining on the creative person. And we got to rise above. We got to rise above. Henry Rollins in the house. Drinking this cannabis sun tea. Yeah, man, I'll tell you why I'm so hyped. I was supposed to have my buddy Rondell Hartley on. We were going to do a podcast in the park, but he had to cancel because his bike got a flat. He was going to drive his bike over there. He's over in, I think he's in East Brooklyn. And he's my buddy that I used to do even before podcasts. We were on internet radio, and we did this show called R&R, where we just played hip hop, and we had a DJ, my man DJ Concerned. He's now Seany Slices. He owns this great place out in the Rockaway. Google Seany Slices in Rockaway Beach. If you're ever in New York and you want the best pizza by the beach, this is the joint. And they have bands out there. I just went out there yesterday. It's the sickest scene. And the thing that's crazy about the Rockaways, they have real waves. I haven't gone out there, but people are surfing and stuff. But, I went out to Long Island. I went out to Fire Island. The waves are decent. Montauk, all that shit. I'm not a big fan of all that shit, but I do dig the Rockaways and I like Fire Island. I'm not dissing on anything. I'll vacation anywhere if you got, a place that I can hang out with flip-flops and in a chair and shit. But they got real waves out in the Rockaways. So you get this like great pizza. Check out, I think it's 125th Street. The Rockaway Beach, if you haven't been out there, is a must see if you live in New York. It's cool, it's hip. It's like beach with bodega. It's like crazy. But the waves are actually glassy, and like yesterday they were like 3 to 5 feet high, and it's a big line. It's not like I've been to some surf spots where it's just like, oh, right there, that's the only place you can catch wave. But no, it was a nice like setup, and there was like 10 people out there, and people were catching waves and riding them legit style, and there's beach cruisers and shit. It's a wild place. And also MC Search from Third Base is from out there. And my buddy Seany Slice, DJ Concerned, shout out. And then there's a really good Bobby J from Rockaway. He's on the come up. He's this funky rapper. He does the Brooklyn Bowl. I see him on Instagram. Seany Slices is his boy and shit. So check him out. That dude rhymes for real. I got a few bars around, but I'm no battle rapper, man. I like battling, I never really got it. I like performing. Stand-up is battling most of the time. I got enough fucking competition on that end. When I do raps, it's more like getting high and doing poetry, and then I like to ride the beat. I think it's fun to get in the pocket and figure it out and dance around inside the music. It's fucking fun. Music is fun. Comedy's fun. Life is supposed to be fun. Living is the gig, and this is what we're doing. We're getting out there. I did a show, man. Shout out to my man from Adult Swim. He's got a 3rd season. Joe Pera, Buffalo's own Joe Pera, who is going to be on the podcast. I talked to him. Joe Pera is the trip, man. He's like this. It's a character. He's not a character, but he really is sincerely a nice, simple man with a really cool sense of humor. But underneath it, I think he's a lot hipper than he puts on. But he is. If you ever met people from Buffalo, they're out there, man. They're very dynamic, but they're also down to earth and a bit crazy because it's so cold, and all they do is drink Labatt's Blue and listen to Rick James and eat buffalo wings. That was a joke, everybody, if that offend any people from Buffalo. I know you listen to The Cure, too. You know what I've been hyped on, but Rondell and I was going to do this podcast, but my man Rondell had to back out. We were going to smoke joints in the park and everything, but he had to back out because his tire got flat. He sent me a picture. He was like, dude, I'm on my way. And then like 15 minutes later, like his front tire of his bike, and I think he had 10, 15 miles to go. And it was just blown the fuck out. He had to walk his bike home. So it wasn't meant to be. So maybe this solo podcast is what's meant to be. But what we were going to talk about is this Verzuz. I don't know if you guys have been, as you know, I love music. I love jam band scenes. I love fucking, what is it? You know, I bet Widespread Panic. I love Grateful Dead. Billy Strings I've been going into. But I also love classic New York hip hop. And I also love fucking weird rock and roll. Shout out to ZZ Top, their bassist, Dusty. I'm slipping on his last name, but Dusty with the beard. Much respect, man. As I've talked about ZZ Top, their documentary on Netflix is amazing. They're just unique. I like unique artists. I like motherfuckers that aren't in everybody else's lane and that they do their thing. And ZZ Top did that, man. And in terms of, people could say Texas is controversial right now. But I will tell you, man, the toughest people are from Texas and New Jersey. That's what I've met in my lifetime. Those are two types of people you don't want to tangle with. But I shouldn't say that. That's generalizations. We're all just living matter, learning and making mistakes and forming and reforming and dying and rebirth. And the ego is a lie. But yeah, so the classic Verzuz over the last few years, they've been having this Verzuz, which is it's the dude from Swiss Beats. Swiss Beats is a producer that's made some of the best 90s beats. He did several Jay-Z joints, and then he came up underneath DMX. Like some of those stop, drop, shut up, down, open, all that shit is him. Don't quote me, boy, because I ain't said shit. But that, I think that he's in that era. I know he was producing beats for DMX. And then he went on to Jay-Z, and then he went on to mainstream, and then he married Alicia Keys, and then, but he still stays with hip hop. Producing, making music. I think he produced the last DMX album, R.I.P. DMX. DMX is a lot deeper, man. If you get in there, man, and when I think about his spirit and soul, it's almost sad, but also fucking brilliant. It's just a lot of art. A lot of great art comes from fucked up shit, but it doesn't have to. A lot of it comes from hard work. And DMX is one of those dudes, I know there was a lot of 80s rappers that he didn't pop off till almost the mid 90s, and he'd been doing it forever. Good shit takes time, but sometimes it just pops off like nature. A lot of it just comes from stillness, but pressure and then something happens. But this Verzuz was so classic. So this thing has been building up. A lot of it has been over IG Live in the beginning. They would have Snoop Dogg versus DMX, and they would just play their hits. Both of these hip hop artists from the 90s have tons of great songs that everybody knows because they were dominating the airwaves back when people listened to radio. And you couldn't escape the music. It was always around. Now I think everybody has their own wavelength and vibe, but there still is a lot of whack copycats out there. But if you dig hard enough, there's all kinds of shit laying around. I think it's more about seeking out higher quality stuff and not just consuming whatever the mass pipe. Because usually the mass pipe is fucking mediocre and bunk. That's where I'm at now, man. I've messed around with a lot of mainstream shit, and there is good money there. And if something fits, it's great. But on the whole, if you're going for such a huge audience, and your art is somewhat nuanced, they might, I don't know. Sometimes I have no idea. No, I can't say that, but with this podcast, I love talking it out. But I want to slow down a bit and talk about the Verzuz, because I think it was very, very important. And I'll just tell you what I saw, because I'm not a huge LOX fan. There was the LOX, which is Style P's the Ghost, who's this rapper. He was a gangster rapper in the 90s, but now he runs a juice shop. And he looks great for his age. He's like my age, and he still looks 23. And then it is Young Jeezy, who used to always wear he always had a snowman was his logo. And then there's like a third rapper. Now the LOX, that's hardcore New York hip hop. And I'm not going to sit here and tell you I'm a New Yorker, all right? I love New York hip hop. New York hip hop, that is probably my first love, is Beat Street, breakdancing. I did not like the movie Breaking. I did not like Electric Boogaloo. Early West Coast hip hop was so fucking whack to me compared to East Coast New York shit. People don't get it. Dr. Dre, NWA changed all that, but there was like good 10 years. Like if you heard a record from out there, and there would be like Ice-T would have something, but even Ice-T, like his shit was so violent and shit. New Yorkers, it's just fucking a lot straight up shit, you know. And I like Ice-T, and he has some of the funkiest joints, but when it comes to New York, like Cold Crush Brothers, Run DMC, Beastie Boys, Cool G Rap, the Lost Boys, I can go on and on. Like, but the core of it is breakdancing, great graffiti, and then great hip hop over like abstract, dug in the crate, dusty ass records that nobody heard of until they flipped him and made the beats really funky. And that's where you see, I don't know, I don't want to go into God or Tao or whatever, but when you see something come out of nothing, and that's happening all the time. I think with podcasts, you see it. Comedians are tapping. Shout out to all these comedians that are making millions of dollars off their podcasts, man. And I know some of these cats. And it's something out of nothing. You know, it wasn't there before. It definitely wasn't there when I started in comedy. And it grew. You just feel something, you know, you feel it and then you go towards it. And even if it's nothing, everybody's like, oh, what are you doing? That's stupid. You're blah, blah. Why is he wasting his time? And then if you put the love in it, the love comes back. And then this fucking flower blooms. And that's how I see hip hop. But now but there's so much violence in it now that bums me out. And I'm old and fucking got a family and shit. And I don't like hearing the N-word, and I don't want to hear, it's just fucking, sometimes it gets me. But when I feel it, like I can move beyond the words. I could feel the emotion and the trueness and the purity of somebody expressing themselves honestly. And that is heavy. And I think that's when people if you're down in the dumps and you hear something real and it speaks to your heart, it's fucking great. Now, back to the LOX and Dipset. Now, I always was a Dipset cat. I loved that Oh Boys song. And that was a producer called Just Blaze, who also did like amazing hip hop tracks. And I got to meet Combat Jack, who was the first, before Drink Champs. I listened to Combat Jack, R.I.P., and he was friends with my buddy Ed Woods, and he had a great hip-hop podcast, and he would talk to LL Cool J, he would talk to all these, just kind of get behind the scenes, and that's what everybody's doing right now with these podcasts. But it was all New York, and he was like an entertainment lawyer that worked with all these hip-hop artists, and he had a podcast, but he passed away, but he was kind of a pioneer in all of this. So I just wanted to give him a respectful shout out. And he lived in Brooklyn, and I got to meet him through Ed Woods a couple times, and he was cool as hell to me. And I thought eventually I would get on his podcast just because of comedy and some of the things, I was touring with Tracy, and I was doing Tracy Morgan, and so I was kind of walking around some of these worlds. The mainstream comedy world is good to me. Everybody respects me, but I don't know if they ever truly got me all the way. And I don't know if I get myself. I'm still building and understanding and growing. But enough about talking about me, because that's full ego. But on to the, it was the LOX versus Dipset. Now, Dipset is from Harlem. And Harlem, New York is like, it's like Washington, D.C. It's a classic African-American community with deep, deep history in music and black culture and art and engineering and fashion. And it's just got so it was always kind of known that people from Harlem were like the coolest of the cool. As New York gets, I think a lot of it is the competition, not to bum anybody out. New York isn't the best and it stresses you out. I grind my teeth. I have to wear a mouth guard because you end up grinding your teeth when you live here long enough. But the competition does make you better. It's just a part of the gig, man. So these MCs, Dipset was Cameron, and Cameron came from Mace, actually, if you listen to early hip hop. But Cameron was he's got a great flow, but he's kind of a dick. But in a funny way. Like, I would say he is a funny dick, man. That dude, he's just kind of mean, but also funny and sly and goofs on people and clowns people ruthlessly. But he's got great flow and great taste, and I don't know if it's great, but it's definitely unique. It's unique. And Dipset is definitely unique, and but the LOX were just great rappers. These guys, I didn't know many of their jams because it's just really hard, aggressive. The thing I liked about Dipset, it was a little bit more artistic at times, but the LOX had super well produced and awesome flows. Like, it was, and I thought Dipset was going to blow him out. So this was a Verzuz. I watched it. It was at Madison Square Garden. They usually do it in small little places, but I guess the brand has gotten bigger and bigger. And now it was Dipset versus the LOX in Madison Square Garden during the pandemic. But everybody's vaxxed up in New York. That's the thing about New York. Nobody's not vaxxed. I heard a couple people at a comedy club early on talking about they don't like needles. And I was like, dude, what are you fucking talking about? I didn't give him much shit because I might give him a look. And I said something about like not being scared of needles. Like, the older you get, you're going to go have some operations. They're going to cut into you. They're going to do all kinds of shit. So I don't even understand being like 48. This dude was like old. He was like in his 40s telling me he's scared of shots. And I'm like, are you fucking kidding me, dude? Get over that shit. We're in the middle of smallpox, man. People are and I want to tour. I want to do all this stuff, but everybody's vaxxed up. And I did a show in front of like 200 people at the Bell House. Like I said, shout out Joe Pera and Dan Licata. They put me on their show. It was like 3 or 4 comedians in them. They host on Tuesdays. And, they got a great crowd, man. They got a shout out to everybody that was at that show. I had a fun time on stage, man. It was like, I haven't been performing a ton, but I've been doing this long enough that when I go on stage, I get this burst of joy that it was always there in the beginning, but over the years wore down, especially with grinding and trying to make money. And once I had a family, like, I had to make some decisions to do stuff maybe I didn't want to do artistically for that money. But so just getting back on stage and doing stand-up, there's a pure joy. You can check out my album, Pure Uncut Joy. There's a spark in it that I'm really enjoying because I haven't been on stage. And when I am, it's like, and I'm not run down. As Lao Tzu says, if you keep on sharpening your knife, it's going to eventually get dull. And I think that's what happens to comedians, when they get really good and they want to keep it going, so they just start performing like crazy. It's good to step away a little bit and let life grow and just let things happen. And that's what I'm trying to do, is just trying to step back and then pick and choose my spots when I go up. Like go up when somebody really wants me and books me and pays me correctly. And I'll still do the grimy underground spots, but I'm going to only do the fun ones, the ones I want to do, that the audiences are kind of good and that the people kind of respect me. I'm not doing this I'm going to go up anywhere at any time shit. I've been through that. I've done that. It's time to circle the wagons a little bit. And choose where I go up. With that said, we'll see how it all opens up and flows out. But with the LOX and Dipset, so if they're in Madison Square Garden, like when I performed, everybody had to show proof of vaccination, which is dope. And people still wear masks. I wore a mask going in. I didn't wear a mask on stage, which and backstage there was only like 4 or 5 people. Like, I'm not a psycho about it. Like, I just worry if somebody's sick in the droplets, if there's enough room for spit to get into my bubble, into my grill space, then that's when I back away. Like, if I see a crazy crowd, I'll throw my mask on, even inside, outside. But that's me. And I'm fully vaccinated. I haven't caught COVID. I take so many vitamins. I'm meditating 20 minutes a day. I'm doing Tibetan rite stretches. I'm going to walks in the park and looking at the sky and seeing how blue and, observing nature in its truest and formest, without any ego, and trying to connect with all of it. With that being said, dude, they connected with everybody that really loved New York hip hop. You couldn't watch this versus the LOX because, Young Jeezy, I think he's just dominating. Like, I know a lot of hardcore hip hop dudes that swear by Young Jeezy, but he never like super exploded into mainstream like Jay-Z. Like, he did, I guess, for some people, but it wasn't top 40. Let's put it that way. But he did. He had some great lines, but he came out. These guys trained, and like Dipset took it kind of slack and were goofing off a lot. Like, they were clowning. They were just trying to do stand-up and, like, doing snaps at the hallway of fucking, like back when I was at Brent Elementary in D.C. Like, it was, they were just clowning, just kind of goofballing. But the LOX, they had their rhymes together. They had their song selection together. They were on point. Styles B. That's what everybody in MSG was smoking weed. That's what I was tripping out on. And on stage, everybody had blunts. And nobody, like New York, there's no dispensaries, but nobody is looking at you weird when you roll up. That's a beautiful, I did 3 nights in, you've all heard that story, but it was not like that 10 years ago. I was on the subway and somebody was like rolling a blunt and it was like 12 o'clock just right next to me. Very respectfully, I was like, hey, could you roll me one? But I don't know. I don't want to smoke any randos weed. You got to watch out there. That fentanyl stuff fucking scares the shit out of me. Keep all that fucking shit away from me. I don't like hard drugs, any of that shit. I like some herb, some mushrooms, maybe, if I got like 2 weeks and, I'm taken care of and I'm in the woods. And mostly just herb, coffee and weed, as this podcast is all about. But no, so Dipset, they came out kind of soft and they were clowning and they just weren't taking it as serious as the LOX. And the New York crowd felt it. The thing about performing in New York, it is hard, man. I remember the first time I performed at Caroline's, I fucking bombed, man. And I've been killing it out in the West Coast for a while. But that was like I'm talking, I could do a hipster room. I did Rafifi with Zach Galifianakis and all those guys, and they gave me respect and love, and I would always get sets. But I went up in front of like Long Island, New Jersey, Staten Island, those motherfuckers, New York hats, no southernness, no laid backness at all. Just hard to the core, Howard Stern all day, every day, type motherfuckers. But yeah, it's a trip. I'm just trying to make sure. Whoa. Okay. Okay, there we go. Yeah. But it was at Madison Square Garden, and everybody was so. It looked like it was chaotic, but at the same time, I don't know. New Yorkers understand each other. I would say about Carolines, it's really hard to perform in front of not hard. They'll give it to you, but you can't be slack, and you can't be too like you got. It's just like driving here. You got to go hard, and you got to hit them, and you got to keep it moving always. And the minute I drive here in New York, the minute I stop at a stop sign or I'm at a light, God forbid, I wait 1 second, the horn just goes, gah, gah. And that's how the crowds are here. It's like, not some of the Brooklyn, maybe not the Bell House and Union Hall. Like, they'll listen to you a little bit more. But I'm talking like Carolines or, on a mainstream blue straight up the gut type shit. You have to, and that's what this crowd was in MSG. This was like, just straight up New York hip dudes like that were my age and younger. It was total New York heads, New York hip hop heads. Came to see, Dipset doesn't perform like that, and the LOX don't perform like these were two like of the biggest like bangers of late 90s, early 2000. I would say early 2000 maybe, hip hop cats going at it. And it was just great to see. And one of the lines that I've caught, because like Cameron is always joking, man. I get computers putin'. And he's always joking. And he was joking on Young Jeezy, like clowning his camouflage cargo shorts. He's like, "What are you doing in cargo shorts?" Which was funny. And then Young Jeezy had a line and said, "This is hip hop. This is about bars. Shut up, Kevin Hart. You trying to be Kevin Hart?" Like and then everybody's like, "Oh," because Cameron was being slack. He was just like, they were playing the track and he was rapping the words over his words and wasn't even getting his rhymes right. He was kind of high, not taking it serious. But Young Jeezy, those guys, LOX, they were on point. They had stage presence. They were doing freestyles. They were doing acapellas. They were running, because it's about New York is like, that's what I do like. Like it's got a big ego, but the skill level has to be higher than the ego. The skill level, they respect winners. They respect killing. They respect going hard in the paint. I shouldn't say killing. I wouldn't say killing. You just got to do it good. If you're gonna open a pizza, like my man Seany Slices, this pizza, he opened a pizza joint in Rockaway in New York, in 2020. His competition, his shit has to be good. And it is. It's some of the best pizza out there. I'll swear by it. It is great pizza. Because, you can't come with mediocre pizza in New York. Nobody wants that shit. You're not going to sell anything. Same thing with some of the hip hop and comedy. But now with internet, people have learned the algorithms and are cheating a little bit. But with live performance, you really can't cheat. You either got it or you don't. And it's that moment. That's what's so dope about live music and live performance. It's a once in a lifetime footprint. It's a fingerprint. It's a fingerprint. The LOX put a footprint in hip hop's ass on the Verzuz. Because I didn't really know them now. I mean, I was a fan of Styles P, mostly because of his cannabis. I always liked artists that were open about their pot smoking, because I've always thought that cannabis could help our society and ease a lot of the woes and pains and bring races of people together and all that. But I know it's not the end all and be all, and most stuff comes from hard work. So you got to watch it. You don't want to be so smoked out that you can't see where you're going. And where you're going is trying to make it good. Like a flower, you want to go to the top and bloom the fuck out. But yeah, this versus he said you, and then the other line I wanted to talk about. He goes, "These dudes have grams. We have Grammys." Because Dipset, they talk about selling blow and do it. I know Joel's, he had his time. I don't like rumors and shit, but this it's just super grimy, type of hip hop, but it sounds awesome and funky, and it's unique, and it's got style. It's awesome. But I thought that was a funny line. That because they just weren't coming correct. I thought that was a funny line, and Cameron had a million lines, but Jeezy had that line. We have Grammys, they have grams. He said that, and then he said, then he called Cameron Kevin Hart. I thought that was hilarious. But then at the very end, like, it was chaos. They had so many people. When I tuned in, I came home from the Joe Pera show. I did the Bell House, and that was 200 people, and I went on like third, and it's like a theater. So it's a small theater, warehousey type of cool place in Kiwanis. Shout out the Bell House. If you go see a comedy show, go see a concert there. Top notch facility, staff, spot, booking, the nine. But yeah, I thought that was great. But then I think they had a pound of weed on stage. Cameron had a lazy chair, had a beach chair, like he was sleeping during the other dudes. It was that good, fun hip hop vibe, but also it had that edge where New York is like, they're always going at each other, but it's out of like one-upmanship is the spirit of it, if you really know what's going on. And I could tell that throughout the whole thing, because all those guys are like millionaires and I don't know if they're millionaires, but they make good living. They know they have it good, and especially at their age, and they're around my age. They know, especially, after you've been through some shit, if you have a career in entertainment and can pay the bills with it, it's better than working at Arby's. Not that working at Arby's is bad, because Arby's, they got the beef. Maybe you like those cheese sandwiches they got. But yeah, what was wild and dope to me, Styles P at the end was like, "Hey, this is for everybody." And Styles P is this very passionate, but he runs a green juice joint. Styles P the Ghost, which is a sick fucking hip hop name. Great graffiti name too. But he at the very end did like a prayer, but he said, "Put two fingers in the air." And it was all of Dipset, and they've been going at each other the whole time, clowning each other, talking shit. But then at the end, he's like, "Nobody from here is going home hurt. Nobody's getting robbed. Nobody's getting shot. We did this for New York City hip hop. We had an amazing show." When I tuned in, there were so many people on stage, because everybody all their friends and hangers on and people like, "Oh, I know him," was back on stage. And then it wasn't even the group. It was like 100 people on stage, and the stage was about to collapse. So they had to stop for like 20 minutes and then finish it. So when they finished it, Styles P was like, "Put two fingers in the air. I don't care if you're white, black, Latina, everybody." Everybody did that. Like the whole crowd put peace up in the air, which I love. We're all searching for inner peace and outer peace. That's the gig, man. I don't give a fuck how crazy you are or how hyped up you are on government and fucking politics or whatever. It's all, you just want peace because it's fucking chaos, homie. So he's like, he puts two fingers in the air, and the whole crowd puts two fingers in the air, and then he goes, "Put them together to make one love." Does that, and then peace, 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 and it was just like, and you could tell that those MCs had such control and respect from the crowd, and the crowd was all New Yorkers with New York hats, and they heard all New York jams by the best of the best of the best that were doing it, in their youth, and he was just really respectful, man. It was really cool, beautiful, amazing, and it made me fall in love with New York City hip hop again. And I'm working on these projects I got these side music projects that I'm excited about. It just put the jetpack in the back, you know. It was fun. I love music. I love doing this podcast. Oh, the Joe Pera show. Yeah, but the Delta started firing up again, and I just don't want that shit. So I've been backing off a little bit. But when I did it, it's just been so weird to go on stage and give out that energy because we've all been locked inside for a year. So I'm not used to putting out, like I did a couple comedy club sets, and those crowds are like 20 people. But what I had to perform, I was on a big stage in front of like 200 people. And I had to really, and it wasn't my crowd, but they were super nice and open-minded. This is like Adult Swim, smart fucking graphic designers from Brooklyn and shit. Like totally hip, diverse, cool crowd. But I had to bring, they didn't know me from Adam, or maybe they did, but I had to bring it, in terms of I had to be funny and I had to entertain. And I hadn't done it. That takes an amount of energy from your soul and chakras, from your root chakras. And when I did it, I had a great set and it felt good. And I was improvising. I was talking about doing parkour and skinny dipping in the Gowanus Canal. Just shit I didn't even write. I had a bunch of shit written. But when I got out there, it was just so much fun. I just started, going ham. And then I did, 12 minutes. Thank you very much. It was, great crowd. Clap, clap, clap. Laugh, clap. Awesome. I did my job. I came back, and usually, a lot of it, I think it's adrenaline. Like, I think I am addicted to the adrenaline a little bit. I won't lie that I love performing because it does shoot through your body. It makes you feel alive. Really, really alive. And naturally, and it was pumping through me so hard that when I sat down on the chair, I remember just like, and I've been doing this like 23 years, and I was just like, whoa, whoa, whoa. It just started coming down. But I gotta go, everybody. I love you. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Cannabis Coffee Hour. Like and subscribe. Peace, one love.